Last quarter, I talked about a common goal mistake, like a general goal mistake that I and lots of others struggle with. And that topic was expecting progress to be linear, expecting your progress to look the same every day, every week, every month over the course of a year, and that is not going to be the case. I also probably could use a revisit on that video from last quarter. So I'm going to link that below after this live is over. Sorry, my hair's doing something funky. It's distracting me. If you need to revisit that as well, that is there for you. Today, we are talking about a mistake related to actually refreshing your goals. So as we approach a new quarter, I am always encouraging you to check in and refresh your goals, set new focuses, etc. This one, especially, when I say especially this one, I mean the halfway point. We are almost halfway through the year, and it is the perfect time. Even if you didn't do a quarterly refresh from between March and April, even if you don't set quarterly goals, I would encourage you to take time to refresh your goals going into the second half. And the most common mistake that I see myself and others make during this phase is not being willing to change your mind about your annual goals. I am a very stubborn individual. If you ask my husband, it is definitely one of the things that I work on the most in my growth and development as a human being. I do believe that I get it honestly. Both of my parents are also very stubborn. And so it is hard for me to admit 6 months into the year that I want to change my mind or need to change my mind about an annual goal that I set. And that has been something that I've had to work on over the number of years that I've set goals. And I've watched other people struggle with this as well. Whether you feel like you're a stubborn person or not, my guess is that you also have struggled at times to change your mind about your goals that you have set. I want to remind you that you are not the same person you were in December. Now, whether that is blatantly obvious, something drastic has changed about your life in the last 6 months, or you feel like you're the exact same that you were in December, it doesn't matter. You're not. You have learned things in the last 6 months. You know so much more than you did when you set your goals for the year. You know more about yourself. You know more about what works for you when it comes to goals. You know more about what is important to you. You, even if, again, it doesn't feel like it, even if you can't pinpoint what that is on the surface, subconsciously in your brain cells, you know more, and you are a different person than you were 6 months ago. So that in turn means that there might be something different about your goals and what you want to focus on or prioritize in the next 6 months. So I want to remind you that even if you don't set quarterly goals, I personally like to have a focus for each quarter for 90 days at a time. But even if that is not how you function with goals, you probably, if you don't set them, you probably, and there's a typo there, don't think much of these refreshes. You think, well, I don't set quarterly goals, so I don't need to really do the refreshes. And I've been there. I totally did that years and years ago when I first started using the power sheets. We would get to these quarterly check-ins and I would be like, I don't need these. I don't need to refresh anything. I don't need to think about anything. I'm just moving on to the next month. And I would treat each month the same. And again, that is not helpful for anyone. That is a mistake. Even if you are not setting quarterly goals or changing anything necessarily about your monthly steps, it is still helpful, especially at this turn, this 6 month turn, to check in with your annual goals. For all of us, it is helpful. What I always share, and I feel like I could have made each of these their own thing, but I don't want to go into this, forever and ever and ever, is the options that you have when it comes to your annual goals. What do I mean when I say change your mind about your annual goals? Well, you could add something. Once again, this could be something obvious. This could be like, I got a new job, or I need to move, or I'm selling my house, or I'm buying a house, or I'm getting married, or something, right? There could be an obvious thing that you're adding in. This could be removing goals. And you could remove goals for a number of reasons. You could remove goals because you finished it, right? You finished something. Maybe you got married, so that goal is done. It could be removing things because you don't have time to focus on it. You have to learn to prioritize. I was just texting with a community member who acknowledged that they were frustrated with their slow progress. They were like, I am making progress, but I am not making as quick of progress as I would like. It's because I have too many goals. And so I need to remove something if I'm going to make more progress, faster progress in the second half. Maybe you want to change the phrasing of what that goal is. Maybe you have learned that that's not exactly what you want. And this could be a fault of not spending time defining your goals. I talked a little bit about that last week, about my own personal journey with my kitchen goal and like figuring out what it means to me. Some of that is spending the time in advance, getting clear on that. And some of that is just learning as you go. I've learned a lot about that goal in the last 6 months. And so potentially changing the wording on that goal. Maybe you want to get more specific. Maybe you said, I want to declutter my entire house. You realize 6 months in that that's not feasible. And so what you would rather do is say, I'm going to declutter just the first floor or just this particular room. Maybe you want to do the opposite and you want to get more broad. That way you have the opportunity to pick action steps that feel right to you in that month, in that week. And so you want to pull back a little bit, and instead of getting really specific and say, I'm going to declutter the basement, I'm just going to declutter something in your house. Maybe you want to, oh my gosh, another typo. I clearly need to, you know what it is? This system that I use for the lives doesn't have like spell check. And my nails are really long right now for me. For some of you, you're probably like, that's not that long. They're long for me. And typing, not my strong suit when I have long nails. Anyways, maybe you want to increase your goal, right? Maybe you set a book goal at the beginning of the year and you've realized you are more than halfway. By the way, just because you're more than halfway on a goal doesn't mean you have to increase anything. It doesn't mean you have to change anything. Or maybe you want to decrease it. Vice versa. And sometimes it goes the other way where you're like, I'm not halfway, so I want to increase my goal so that I can hit something. Don't do that either, right? If you didn't hit, let's say you set a goal to do 50 books for the year and we're halfway and you're not at 25. That is not an invitation for you to necessarily say, okay, well, in the second half, I'm going to read however many I need to get to 50. Take a second. Why didn't you hit 25? Like, is it because you're choosing really long books? Is it because you're reading less than you want to, you're doing something else, whatever it is? It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to increase. That is exactly what I'm talking about, where maybe what you want to do is say, I'm reading at the pace that I want, and I read 20 books in the first half. That's how many I'd like to read in the second half. Maybe you'd like to decrease a goal and lower it a little bit, or any combination of these. You can mix and match, right? You can add one, you can decrease another, you can change the word, you can remove something, right? There is no framework or structure or anything that you have to do related to updating your annual goals. All I'm asking you to do is think about it. All I'm asking you to do is take a second and look at it and not be so stubborn like me that you can't change your mind, that you can't make adjustments to your annual goals. Now, if you are like me and you set really vague annual goals, well, then maybe you don't necessarily think there isn't anything you necessarily want to change. For me, I didn't actually change any of my goals, my annual goals going into the new quarter, but I changed, well, for personal. For business, I most definitely changed some stuff, and I talk a lot about that in the videos coming next week. Not next week, the week after next. But I did take some time to think about what those goals mean to me, right? So even though I'm not changing any of the wordings, I've kind of thought more about what it is in the background and what the action steps are that I'm going to take to get me to those goals. But I'm reminding you again and again and again that you still have the permission to change your mind, even though it's the middle of the year. Even though it is the middle of the year, you can change your mind about your annual goals. They do not, You're not etching them in stone for the entire calendar year. And now some of you I know have shared with me that you're changing your goals because you're doing annual goals or calendar year goals as opposed to, that's wrong. You're doing academic. That's the word I was looking for. Academic year goals as opposed to calendar year goals. So you're just totally changing them, and that's awesome. But for those of you sticking with the calendar year focuses, it's okay to change your mind about your goals. I'm going to check the comments really quick. Okay, there was just some more wins being shared. Okay, that's actually all that I have planned to talk about this. This was all kind of, again, the mindset behind changing your goals and the reminder that you are the one in control of your goals and you're allowed to change your mind at whatever that looks like for you. Now, if you need some support on actually doing this, like walking you through this process, we are doing this live as a community on Sunday. It is within the Goals with Laken community, which is always linked in the description box if you want to join us. But we will be doing this live on Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern. The call is going to take 2 hours. I know that's a little early for those friends on the West Coast, but I do it at that time for our friends in Europe to be able to join and not be like super late into their evening. It is going to be 2 hours. We're going to do our annual refresh. So basically all these things that I just talked about, we're going to do that together. Then we are going to pick some quarterly focuses. Even if you do not set quarterly goals, that's okay. I'll tell you what to do at that time. We're going to break down our goals. We're going to spend some time breaking them down and thinking about what our action steps could look like for the next 3 to 6 months. And then we will set up July and what are our action steps for July. So if you need some actual support, come join us live on Sunday. I'm excited to hang out and get our refreshes all set up.